I used to start my day off with prayer, with this prayer. And it goes like this. Fill me anew with the fruit of your Spirit. Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. Remind me of them as I need them, and show me the way I should go. Nice prayer. And then I realized that it sounded like the fruit was only good for one day, a bit like the manna that God provided to the Israelites in the wilderness. And it also sounded like I could access whatever fruit was required as I moved through the day. That which wasn't needed would stay in the basket. And if not accessed, it's going to be replaced the next day anyway. Now, I have a new perspective on the fruit of the Spirit. I no longer see it as a group of 9 or even as fruit. Instead, I have the image of a continuously flowing waterfall representing God's renewable resource, which is love. This new agape, unconditional love, flows into and through us, reflecting the character of God and beginning the refinement process, changing us and the way we relate to God and to others, because Jesus modeled a new way for us. We love because he first loved us. And Jesus even said, "A new command I give you, love one another. As I have loved you, so you must love one another." Now, experiencing the continuously flowing love of God, byproducts begin to be created within us. Joy is the first byproduct of God's continuously flowing love. It is important to note that it is joy, not happiness, that is created. And I can't help but wonder that if Thomas Jefferson had a chance to rethink things, he may well have entrenched the inalienable right to receive joy in the United States Declaration of Independence. Because when you consider that pursuing happiness, the problem is that it's difficult to define, for one thing, and it's also dependent on external sources. One person's pursuit of happiness may infringe on another person's right to life and liberty. Happiness is also fleeting. What once made us happy no longer does, which results in the need to continuously pursue it. Speaking of pursuit, what about the latest Pokemon Go craze? And I understand there's Pokemon outside the door, but don't go look for them now. So we have people chasing all over the place in the pursuit and capture of a screen image. And I read about the guy in Toronto who captured all of them, 142 of them in the Greater Toronto area. And the question put to him was, what now? It means going farther afield, or he said he could also create a new account and start all over again. On the plus side, he lost 25 pounds, and he was also took him into areas that he had never been to before. But did he actually see those areas? You see these people in pursuit of the Pokemon, and their eyes are on their screen. And how many people are working and walking past God's creation and not even actually seeing or experiencing that? But they are collecting Pokemon. Joy, on the other hand, is cultivated internally and does not depend upon external sources, or it does not violate another person's space. When we let joy refine us, it is an expression of our gratitude for the gift of God's unconditional love. Joy is energizing, and when empowered by God's love, it leads to peace. This peace is more than just the absence of war, conflict, or stress. It is the byproduct of being in a right relationship with God. The Apostle Paul, who had his fair share of conflict, wrote to the church in Philippi. Then, because you belong to Jesus Christ, God will bless you with peace that no one can completely understand. And this peace will control the way you think and feel. These are troubling times that we live in. Actually, I don't think there's ever really been a time that has not been troubling for the people who are living in it. We now are able to respond differently when faced with conflict and stress because God's love and joy, along with peace, are changing us from the inside out. The first three gifts result in an interchange. Right from the beginning, God made it clear that we were blessed to be a blessing. Therefore, this interchange needs to be reflected on the outside, which the creation of the next three gifts accomplishes. When love, joy, and peace are within us, we begin to model our lives after God. That creates the next byproduct, which is patience. The psalmist says this about God. But you, Lord, are a compassionate and gracious God, slow to anger, abounding in love and faithfulness. This patience comes from a position of power, since it comes from the powerful one. It results in self-restraint by controlling the impulses and tempers that create so much dissension and get us into so much trouble. Patience also slows us down long enough to deepen our relationship with God, so as to better reflect His presence within us. This leads us to being okay with patiently waiting for things to unfold in God's time, rather than pushing our agendas. As we are being refined inwardly by God's love, creating within us joy and peace and developing patience, the change within us is further evident in our kindness to one another. The world is in need of a lot more kindness. We are inundated with news reports of tragedy all around the world. There is so much anger that is generating so much hatred that kindness seems to be in short supply. Between now and November, every news station is going to be racing each other to report the latest accusations the two major American political parties are throwing at each other. Perhaps everybody needs to start a daily meditation with Ephesians chapter 4, verses 31 and 32. Let there be no more resentment, no more anger or temper, no more violent self-assertiveness, no more slander, and no more malicious remarks. Be kind to each other, be understanding, be as ready to forgive others as God, for Christ's sake, has forgiven you. Is that really doable? Do we actually want to do it? Probably yes to the first, but not necessarily if we're honest to the second. It's easy to demonstrate kindness to nice people, not so much to those we have strong disagreement with. The only way it will happen is being refined as a result of God's continuous outpouring of love and the byproducts of joy, peace, patience, and kindness. The next byproduct being created in us is goodness. As it was in the beginning, where we were blessed to be a blessing, goodness is developed within us to be used for the benefit of others. When God's love enters into us, we become a reflection of God. And one of the characteristics of God that we reflect is His love. We do good, not to get something in exchange, not because we are in the right mood or support someone's platform, but because it is the right thing to do. Central has a remarkable history of having done that. We just finished the annual Historic Calgary Week with many presentations being made right here in this sanctuary. And there has been so much history that has taken place right here in this sanctuary and will continue to be created as we follow God's guidance and participate in the goodness with which He will use us to bless other people. What a change that God's love is working within us, creating an inner joy and peace that leads to an outer reflection of His patience, kindness, and goodness that others can observe. The proof is in the pudding, so they say. The final gifts are the evidence of the interchange resulting from God's love as our actions bear witness to this interchange. Faithfulness. As we are empowered by God within us, we change the way in which we live out our lives. We place our trust in God and faithfully seek to be trustworthy and reliable with all the blessings that we have received. And we use those blessings as He directs us. This means we faithfully pray for guidance and direction. Direction with regards to Central, seeking to understand how God wishes to use us to be a blessing. And praying also elsewhere when we pray for wisdom and guidance for the rest of the world, as very important and serious decisions are being made in our country and around the world. God's love flowing through us, leaving in its wake joy and peace, as evidenced by a newfound patience, kindness, and goodness, causes us to faithfully seek knowledge of His will and trust that the power will be given us to carry it out gently, modeling what Jesus did. Gentleness is a characteristic requiring humility. That means ego and a sense of entitlement need to go. Filled with God's love, we take on a new persona, one demonstrated by Jesus. When Jesus said, "Take the yoke I give you, put it on your shoulders and learn from me. I am gentle and humble, and you will find rest. This yoke is easy to bear, and this burden is light." Gentleness is not weakness, but comes from humility and gratitude towards God. Gentleness is what is possible when we stop trying to control everything and let God take over. It is treating others with grace and respect. The proverb says, words kill, words give life. They're either poison or fruit. You choose. Judging from the media, there seems to be more poison than fruit. And I think we need to filter out what it is that keeps coming into our houses through all the media sources. But it's also treating ourselves with grace and respect, since the refining process that is at work within us is removing that which seemed tarnished and is producing a bright and shining new us. Now, all of the byproducts of God's love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, and gentleness, culminate in the final byproduct, which is self-control. Somebody or something is always in control. We like to kid ourselves that it is us who is in control, but that is seldom the case. We are always giving control away to something or somebody. Is it the bully that makes life miserable at work or home? Is it the media that has its own bias and agenda? Is it advertising making us feel we lack what they are selling? Is it an addiction? Is it codependency and trying to control others? Is it ego? I believe that empowered by a loving God and the refinement that has resulted in inner joy and peace and made us more faithful, kind, and good, demonstrated by our faithfulness and gentleness, we can now take back the control we have given elsewhere and make the conscious decision to turn our will and our life over to the care of God. That is true self-control. When we can stop giving in to the demands and temptations that are everywhere and distract us from the higher purpose for which we were created. That purpose being to be in a relationship with God, to earnestly seek His will for our lives, and to draw on the power that comes with doing His will, His way. I don't pray that prayer anymore that I referred to at the beginning, since I no longer see the fruit as being an assortment of attributes which you can choose from as needed. Instead, I see that the fruit of the Spirit is God's love that flows like a waterfall, like the one playing on the screen. Through its continuous flowing, it creates the other fruit listed in the passage. But it happens sequentially, since each fruit needs the previous ones in order to be fully formed. The image of this waterfall represents that God's love is limitless and never stops flowing. I suspect that there may be some people here who recognize this waterfall. Yeah, for those who don't, this waterfall is Cameron Falls, which is situated in the town of Waterton. And according to the Waterton website, Cameron Falls' crystal clear cascading mountain water rushes steadily over 1.5 billion year-old Cambrian rock. I see this as a demonstration that we can rely on God's love to continuously flow into us as living water, blessing us and working through us to bless others and our families, our neighborhoods, our cities, and extending to the far reaches of His creation. With God, anything is possible, and what a joy to be part of His blessing.